Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerds with Friends. My name is Cody Leach, and as always, I'm joined by Christian Garcia.
What up?
Welcome back to the program. We got a fun show for you today. We're going to be talking some fantasy literature, which will be kind of fun.
Nice.
But thank you, everyone, for subscribing. Make sure you click the subscribe and click the bell so you get notified every time there's a new video on the YouTubes. But if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or even Audible now, just make sure you follow the podcast or subscribe, whatever they call it, on those different platforms. We appreciate it. If you want to support the show, you can check out patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. You can get cool benefits like being a guest on the show, having a custom painted miniature or artwork by Christian, and lots of other stuff on there. Or you can just support the show because you like us. That's cool too.
That's how we eat.
That's how we eat. That's literally our food money. So,
yeah, so you're killing us.
Yeah, please help us. And of course, all that information at nerdswithfriendspodcast.com. Why is this echoing?
Yeah, I heard an echo. That was
That's weird. I'm just going to turn it down. That's okay. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, 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 beep. Okay, cool. Christian, let's do some nerdy confessions where we confess the things that make us nerds.
I just finished, or I watched Nobody with Bob
Odenkirk.
Yes, who plays Sal in Better Call Saul,
Yep.
or
he was on that Mr. Show, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And dude, like I didn't know he had it in him to do an action movie. It was actually really good.
Yeah.
He was believable in it.
It looked really interesting, kind of like if John Wick wasn't Keanu Reeves and like super cool guy.
It's if John Wick had a family, I guess.
Yeah, if John Wick got the dad bod and like, kind of settled down.
He didn't get into like, super bulky, but he did slim down.
Sure. I'm sure just to do some of the little fight choreography, you're gonna slim down because of how much work it is.
Yeah, it was really good. Christopher Lloyd was in it, which was
Oh.
awesome. RZA was in it. He was good too. Highly recommend it. It was fucking hilarious, and the action was dope. Little slow in the beginning, but dude's living a slow life, and it paces up.
Yeah.
Super recommend it. It was awesome. I actually wanted to buy it, but I couldn't, so it's only like early access right now on Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's like $20 to rent it.
Yeah, one thing with any of these early access rental movies, like I would prefer, especially like the Disney Plus ones, which are $30,
Yeah,
right?
fuck out of here.
Like, let me just buy it for that. Like, once I pay the $30, which is a stupid amount.
It's a
of money.
Blu-ray. It's a Blu-ray. What it costs for a Blu-ray? Like,
Right.
let me just buy it. Let me just
Let
own
me
it.
just have it and keep it digitally, because even that stuff is not forever. Because like if you buy a digital movie and that company goes out of business for some reason or the platform ends, you lost that digital thing.
Yeah.
Like if they stop making Call of Duties for some reason, all of that money we spent on special skins and guns is all just gone.
Yep.
It's all just gone.
Or when the new Call of Duty comes.
Yeah, well, one thing about at least one thing that keeps me sane on it at least a little bit is that when the new Call of Duty comes out, you'll still be able to use that stuff in Warzone, which is nice.
Okay.
So, hopefully we don't know. So far, they've done that with the last two games.
But Nobody, everyone go watch it. Super dope.
Nice.
It's great action.
Yeah,
Loved it.
I'll have to check that one out. It's been on my watch list.
If you don't want to, pay the $20 to rent it, I would just wait and just buy it. You'll like it for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I'm still pretty starved for content, though this summer and fall looks like we're going to finally start getting some
We're eating good.
real movies, so I'm excited about that. My nerdy confession. After, 3-4 episodes ago, we talked about like best beginner anime for you, so you could kind of get into maybe like some starter series and things like that. I was like, you know what? I have not caught up on Attack on Titan. I think I watched the first 2 seasons, but I haven't caught up on it because now I think they're on season 4, just ended season 4, and I think that's the end of the show. I could be wrong on that. So I'm like, I'm gonna rewatch Attack on Titan and watch it all the way through. It's fucking great. It's so good.
I started it and I remember liking it, but I don't remember why I stopped.
Yeah.
I think it was because some of the characters that I liked, I'm like, oh, this is the main character. Sure, it's like, oh, dead, like fucking eaten.
Nope. Yeah, that show is very much like Game of Thrones, where like if you have a favorite character, side character or whatever, it's like very likely that they're just going to get eaten or stomped on or whatever. And there's some like, I forgot how mature of an anime it is. Because like,
you mean how bloody
and just dark. Like there's one scene where, you know, the Titans are attacking the city and whatnot. And there's like, this is all these cadets, like first time seeing them in real life. And there's like these two hiding out in like a storage room or something. And one guy's like getting his gun, make sure it's all checked out and stuff. And she's like, what's one gun going to do against it? He's like, perfect. He just puts it in his mouth and blows his face off. I'm like, oh, fuck. What are we watching? But yeah, man, aside from all the graphic violence, it's really good. And it's like, I forgot how much I enjoyed like the mystery of it, trying to figure out what's going on with the Titans, who they are really, what they are really and stuff. And I'm getting super back into that. So, yeah, Attack on Titan, check it out. I think it's all on Hulu now, which makes it easy.
Nice.
And I think that's one thing reason why I stopped watching it was you have to, like, once you watch all of it, you have to wait for it not only to premiere in Japan, but also get subbed or dubbed. Pick your poison on that one. And then show up on something like Hulu, you know? So it's like you're waiting longer than just like a show actually coming out.
Since we're talking about anime, I started watching, and I actually really like it, Yasuke on Netflix.
I don't know that one. What's it about?
It's about the first black samurai.
Oh.
And I remember people on Twitter were like, oh, stupid. We're like, why are you doing that? Like, just keep it. I was like, dude, there really was a black samurai. There really was. And it's told there's mechs. Like, it's not like historically accurate. There's like magic and big ass robots, but it's still really good. From what I read about it, they did get some stuff like although here, no, in the cartoon he did purchase him, and historically, like, they just thought he was dirty, so they tried washing him, and I was like, they're not gonna do the anime, and they fucking did it in the anime. I was like, holy shit! So they kept some stuff, but it's really good.
It's really on here.
Yeah.
It's like, ow, my skin.
It's good. It's really good. I'm only like 2 episodes in.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Now, is it more of like traditional?
They don't have the 3D
It's
stuff
not
you
the
hate.
Super 3D? No. Okay, because I fucking do hate that.
No, it's not the thing you hate.
I think, going back to Attack on Titan, that's one thing that show does really well, is mixing 3D animation with hand-drawn animation. Because most of the environments and stuff are 3D, like the buildings when they're zipping through the town on their little omnidirectional mobility gear things, their little grappling hook belts. All the background is all 3D animated. And then I heard in later seasons the Titans are 3D animated too. And that's fine, like when it's mixing elements, but when you do the whole show in 3D, it just looks so shitty.
That's how whatchamacallit was. The big giant mechs that I saw on Netflix that I talked about last time. Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim, yes. Yeah, that's a new trend in anime, and like I get it. It's cheaper to produce. I actually watched a little video on why they do it. It's much easier to create, spend a lot of time with an artist creating a 3D model and then just have an animator go in and move the legs and shit around, later. Whereas with actual hand drawn, like, anime or cartoons, like I think, Legend of Korra, the Avatar Legend of Korra was like, they said it was like 14,000 drawings per episode.
I bet.
Yeah. So
they have to pay all those guys to do it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fucking pencils or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, check it out. Attack on Titan, and then what was your one?
Yasuke.
Yasuke. And then Mr. Nobody, too. Very cool. All right. Let's take ourselves a little break, and then once we come back from a word from our sponsors, we will be talking about some Brandon Sanderson, as if you guys haven't heard enough about him from us. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So, Christian, you've been reading some Brandon Sanderson.
I'm not done with the first book of Mistborn. Right?
Mistborn.
You know, dude, I think I like it more than Stormlight Archive.
You shush your mouth.
No, like
shush your mouth.
They're both
great.
They're both great.
Yeah.
What I like about this one, it's not as complicated.
Right.
Or at least maybe it will get. I think I'm like 4 hours from finishing the first book, but he easily explained like the system, how the magic works, the cast system, but versus Stormlight, it's great because it's complicated and there's a lot of stuff you can deep dive into. But when I got into the next book, I'm like, dude, I don't remember like it was. I think halfway through the book, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember what had happened last time, but those. Yeah. Because the Stormlight Archives are fucking huge, which is, I think, a plus, but also has some minuses because, you're going to forget some things or things that might be important later that happened like in book 1. And you're like, holy shit, like I don't really remember what had happened.
Right.
But with this, it seems kind of more, I don't want to say simple, but easier to understand.
Yeah, well, one thing about Mistborn, which, and again, these are all Brandon Sanderson books. Mistborn was like his first like trilogy that he ever got published, and that's kind of what made a name for him. Like he had other books like Elantris, and I think Warbreaker came out before as well, which did well on their own. But Mistborn was like, holy shit, like this guy can really write, and it is a lot simpler than Stormlight Archive. Stormlight Archive is very much like the main artery of his Cosmere universe. Like it's the main storyline of that universe. And if there was like a sidekick to it, it would be Mistborn, I think.
So like my thing is like try to explain to the audience how the magic works in Stormlight Archive.
Yeah. Okay, so here we'll do it. We'll compare it. So Stormlight Archive, the way the magic system works is okay, so there's this thing called Stormlight, which is like it's magical energy that comes from this storm that is covering the planet. So it just rolls from one side of the planet to the next. And you can capture it in these gemstones, right? And basically, people who have these awakened abilities, who have bonded these
this is the part where you're going to lose people. Watch.
Right, I know. Yeah, so there's these things called Spren, which are like spirits, essentially, and there's different kinds. There's wind spren, fire spren, earth spren, rock spren, anger spren, whatever, for emotions and natural occurrences. So certain individuals will bond to spren, they become symbiotic, and then that grants them powers by ingesting Stormlight. And so there you can fly or change gravity, the pull of gravity, so you can literally fly, jump really high, that sort of thing.
See, and I feel like it's a master storyteller, like
right,
Brent, where like he explains, and you're like, I get it.
You need a 1,200-page book to really grasp it. You know what I mean? Where on Mistborn, basically there are people called Mistings, and then there are Mistborn. They're essentially the same, where they gain a certain type of power by ingesting metals. Every metal has a different power. So like steel pushes, iron pulls. I think it's tin lets you like enhances your senses, like seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and stuff. And there's a bunch of other ones. And a misting gets one power.
Just one.
One or two sometimes in rare cases.
Well, so far I've only seen
I think some of them will have two. I don't remember if that probably pops up later. And then there's Mistborn, who get access to all of them. And then that's basically it.
Yeah, and see, like that magic is a lot. So they ingest it.
There are two other magic systems in that book, which you have not gotten to.
Okay. Well, they got into the thermetics, whatever the butler guy is.
Oh, Ferrochemist.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Where they can store like abilities in the items, but it weakens them as they do it. So they can put strength in a metal.
Yeah, they can. So they can, instead of burning this metal as a fuel, they use it as a storage device. So they can store all sorts of stuff. So strength, they can store strength in it, but doing so makes them weaker.
Yeah.
They can store sight, like an enhanced sight into it, but then they have to wear glasses for a while because they're sucking they're utilizing that stuff later, which is pretty cool.
Vin, one of the main characters, did go into she was asking questions, so they did say like Mistborns, they benefit because as long as they're ingesting metal, they'll never run out.
Right.
But they have limitations, and like there's a certain max that they can hit versus the other one.
The
Like
ferrochemists.
Yeah, they can make themselves like strong.
Ferro being, iron.
Yeah, like they can make themselves strong for like 3 hours, or they could triple their strength, but it's only good for 1 hour. So
Right.
like I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's some benefits,
Yeah. They both have benefits and drawbacks to each one of them. I mean, obviously, and you see it like when she's like burning, what is it, pewter?
That's for
which
strength.
makes you super strong. Like afterwards, there's like a super hard like come down off of it. Where
Well,
she's, like,
that's
super tired.
They ran for like 16 hours, so
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
gonna do some damage
at like superhuman speed. It's that's one thing I think Brandon Sanderson does really well, is he comes up with really interesting magic systems. And going back to the episode we did on hard magic systems versus soft, like he does a really good hard magic system where there's a strict economy to the magic. You can, like, if you think hard enough, you can kind of extrapolate some of the powers and abilities that they can do. Like for instance, we talked about how with steel they can push metal objects, and with iron they can pull it back. So if someone has steel and iron abilities, they can basically take coins and throw them and shoot them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
I thought that was kind of cool. That's basically like their handguns.
Yeah, exactly.
They
exactly.
just throw coins and just push it.
Yeah, they call them coin shots. Are like people who are steel pushers only. They just carry bags of like washers with them, and they'll just like throw them up in the air and just push them like shotgun blast kind of thing. So it's really interesting. I really enjoy it. Now one thing is, you are reading the first trilogy of Mistborn.
There's more trilogies.
There's a second trilogy of Mistborn.
Oh, nice.
Soon to be a quadrilogy. He's working on number 4 right now. Which takes place like something like 100 years into the future.
I just want one of his complete stories.
Yeah.
We have to wait. This is where I felt lucky with the Dark Tower. When I started reading them, they were complete. So I didn't have to wait.
Well, I will say this. The first trilogy of Mistborn is a complete story.
Okay.
Like it starts in one place, it ends in another place, and then once you go into the following one, which they call the Wax and Wayne trilogy, because it follows these two characters, Wax and Wayne, and it's a different story altogether, but it's on the same planet in the Cosmere.
Okay.
So there are still people who have the Mistborn powers and stuff like that. But there's also like hybrids who are both ferrochemists and Mistborn.
Very nice.
So they can like store things and move things and burn metals and stuff.
Nice.
Pretty interesting.
So I'm assuming, well, I mean, no, I don't want you to tell me. I was going to ask about if something happens to the Lord Ruler. I'm assuming if it finishes, but I kind of don't want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't ruin it as surprises for you. It's so good. And I will say I really enjoyed like all of the books in that series. They all have like their own really cool points to them. And there's like some cool mysteries that get uncovered. And then it also shows up in there's certain characters or certain things that show up in Stormlight Archive too.
Nice.
Which is like, that's really what Brandon Sanderson does really well, is he builds this entire universe, and he sets up something in one book and then pays it off in another book, and it's like fucking great.
I kind of want to know now, but I should know. I'll wait.
You shouldn't. Yeah. You don't want to know. Like Warbringer. Did I buy you Warbringer? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Warbreaker, I mean.
No.
Breaker. Well, anyway, you should read that one, because that one tells the story of Nightblood.
Okay. So I thought that was going to happen in this series. So I'm assuming it's in a different one.
Yeah.
Is it the same planet or?
No, different planet.
Okay.
Warbreaker is a different planet, different magic system. So in Warbreaker, they have these things called breaths, which basically it's kind of like every person is born with one breath or like a soul or whatever, right?
Okay.
But you can survive without it. You're just kind of like bummed out for the rest of your life. And so, and you can gift your breath to someone else. And so there are people who have accumulated over the years through, some through, like legitimate channels and some through illegitimate channels, they have accumulated hundreds or even thousands of breaths. And the more you have, the more power you have, essentially. And what you can do is you can take breath out of your body and awaken a inanimate object with it. And you can tell, like a common one is they would wear these kind of like a mist cloak where it's all, ribbons and stuff. They would wear clothing like that, and you can breathe breaths into it, and then they will come alive and do stuff for you. So you can be like grab things, and it'll like grab enemies all around you, kind of thing, and tangle them up, kind of like the cape in Doctor Strange.
So do you have to kill someone to get their breath?
No, you cannot take it forcefully. It has to be given.
Okay.
So, but now say you're down on your luck or behind on your rent, and they're about to take your house away. You'd be like, look,
take my soul.
Yeah,
let me take the house.
I'll take the breath, and you can take the house. And you're like, okay, cool. And then there are people, poor people, even poor people who have nothing to their name. They can sell their breath for a lot of money, and it could, you can make.
Yeah, but then you're sad the whole time.
Yeah, you're sad anyway because you're poor.
That's fair,
right? I mean, well, it's shitty right now, but at least I can be shitty with some money, right? So Nightblood, which is a sword that
Nimimi, was it Nimimi?
Sword Nimi. The sword that talks in Stormlight Archive is an awakened sword. So it has been awakened with breaths in it. So it originated on this other planet, and a certain character from Stormlight Archive has to do with that.
I've read that part actually. Yeah. I read Wikipedia. I read about that. I know it's the. I don't want to ruin it for people.
Yeah. No spoilers. You guys should read all of these books. They're all great. And then we could talk briefly about Elantris, which was I think it's his first published novel. And essentially in that one, the magic system has to do with there's this underlying current of magic in the world called the door, and basically people can tap into it by drawing runes and glyphs in the air. It was way less defined than what you see in Mistborn.
Oh, so
or Stormlight Archive.
He did soft magic.
Kind of. It's still a hard magic system where, based off of what you draw and what modifications you make to it, it changes the effect of it, right? Okay. So they're still based off of glyphs. If you know all the glyphs and you can carve it in the air, you can perform the magic.
But you'll never run out of. You can always just keep doing glyphs. You'll never run out.
Right. You'll never run out necessarily, though. There is some things happening in Elantris where basically Elantris is the name of a city in this world, and it used to be occupied by these godlike creatures called Elantrians, and they were the only ones who could use the door. Essentially, you're basically born into it, but something went wrong where that city turned into a dead city covered in mold and stuff, and the Elantrians, their hair started falling out. They their skin got all gray and gross looking. I think their hearts stopped beating or something like that.
But they're not dead.
But they're not dead. They're kind of undead almost. But you don't go crazy or anything. But one of the weird things is normal back when in the heyday when they were all gods basically, they wouldn't get sick, they wouldn't really grow old. They were basically immortal for the most part. But in this new one, once the city fell, something got messed up in whatever was keeping them in this godly state, and so now obviously you look gross and you look like an undead zombie kind of thing. But every time you hurt yourself, the pain doesn't go away.
Oh shit, that sucks.
Yeah, so
if you fucking stub your toe, you just deal with that forever? That's
literally the first thing that happens. The main character stubs his toe, and he's like, God damn, I really stubbed my toe. It's not going away. He's like, well, in Elantris, pain doesn't go away. And so there's basically people who, if you stay in the city long enough, or if you've been there long enough, the pain has become so much that you basically just go crazy because you're just like.
Does it work the other way around? Like if you bust a nut, you just consistently feel that?
They didn't explore that in the book, but
Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Brandon, we want to know about that. I just can't stop coming.
Yeah, I mean, that's fucking what's... Just trying to counteract.
There's really people who have that condition.
What?
Yeah, there's literally a medical condition where you just come all the time.
What's it called?
I need to find this. I should know it.
For medical reasons.
If you just look it up, like medical condition can't stop coming, it'll pop up. There's been like documentaries on it, and it's.
I need to watch that documentary.
It sounds awesome, but then you think about like this lady can't have a job because she's just like, you know.
Sure she can. She can be a sex phone operator.
She's working at like a funeral home. She's just like, like, I'm sorry for your loss. Oh God.
Ugh. Work at a sex line. Work. There you go.
Yeah, but it's literally like super inconvenient. They can't live normal lives, and you know. And then there's dudes who have it too. Just making a mess, Got to wear waterproof pants all the time.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching this documentary.
I don't know if it's a documentary. It was like, you know, one of those like BBC things where they, you know, like a show maybe.
Oh, if the BBC did it, it's going to be awesome.
It's probably great. Plus they're all British, so it's even great. Just like, yes, quite.
Is that how British people come?
It's like British people. You're welcome.
Because they're polite?
Yeah, they're super polite. That's how I imagined it in my head. God save the Queen.
Dude, if that was the only way you could come, that really sucks.
Yeah, that's the best. Anyway, I don't know how I got. Oh, that Elantris. But yeah, you know, so I like that when you start reading these books of his, you can kind of see how he's progressed, right? Because Elantris was his first one, and you know the magic system. First of all, magic doesn't even get explained until like the last 3 chapters of the book. Like, you know, you're gradually figuring out little by little by little by little.
He figured that out in these other books where he explains it to
and
you
then
like
also,
little by little in the beginning.
Yeah, and then also there's like this big battle that happens like in Elantris, and it's literally one chapter, and it's like, but you know, Stormlight Archive, like the entire second book was almost like nonstop action.
Yeah.
So he like learned to write action scenes better. But like there was this war that was like being hinted at the entire time in Elantris. You're like, oh shit. Well, I mean, it's only one book and I'm running out of pages. And then eventually it's like, oh yeah, it happens and now it's done. And it's like, what the fuck?
He got better.
Yeah, and so it's fun to watch how he got better. Now, so you've read all of Stormlight so far?
What's out?
All 4?
Yes.
Yeah, and so now you're doing Mistborn 1. It's definitely he's got some great material. You know, there's another one that he's done called Skyward, which is a sci-fi / fantasy book that you might enjoy. It's more young adult, so it doesn't have doesn't have as many big words, so you might enjoy it.
Nice. Might understand it better.
The words the.
Got it.
Oh, that's a tough one. But he's done that one. Warbreaker, of course. Elantris. He also did the last 3 books of The Wheel of Time, which was Robert Jordan's, or last 2 books? 3 books? I think it was 3 now. Of Robert Jordan's
I'm wondering if
fantasy
he's
epic.
ever going to get like an HBO show. I would love to see it, but I could imagine it being very difficult. Like I don't know if it, like, as much as I love it, I don't know if it would have the appeal of like what Game of Thrones started as.
Sure.
But I would love to see it.
Well, so he's one thing that's really cool about Brandon Sanderson that I really respect is that he's very open about what he's working on, where he's at working on things, and what's coming next, kind of thing. So he does constant like streams, Reddit AMAs, things like that, and so Mistborn has been, I think someone has bought the rights to it, and they are working on developing something for it. I don't know if it's a movie, TV show, or what.
Mistborn, I could definitely, well, at least so far, I could see it working.
Yeah,
the magic system is not.
And that's one thing that he said is that Mistborn is kind of the proof of concept to make sure that people would go see it, that this would make a studio money.
Yeah.
Because, and you'll see once you finish this first book. The first book by itself could be a movie. It has a very defined beginning, middle, and end, and it reads very cinematically, right? There's not a lot of crazy internal monologues and things like that. Most of it can be seen on screen.
Yep.
Which is one thing that Stephen King doesn't do very well, I would say, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Most of the times because he does a lot of horror type books and stories, a lot of that is inner monologue where you're like he's describing the fear and how afraid they are, or how grotesque something is. There's not as much of that in Brandon Sanderson, so it lends itself better to the screen.
Mistborn for sure, I could definitely see it working.
Mistborn, I think, could definitely work, and I think it would work because it has a very big following. Just as big, if not bigger, than Stormlight. I would assume. But one thing with Stormlight Archive is that to make that into something that would actually be good, it's going to be a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
because
it would have to be like an HBO, or like a HBO Max even. I mean, what they did with Raised by Wolves was great.
And I mean, it would have to be like a multi-season contract.
Yeah,
because there's no way you could make like one miniseries and be done with it.
No.
There's no way that could happen. And because the world is so alive, because these spren are all over the place, another thing, that happens in that book series is that because there's these high storms, which are these like.
You're talking about Stormlight now.
Stormlight, yeah. The reason why they can't do it is because you have the high storms, which is a big CG storm cloud that you'd have to make. But because of that, the entire planet has evolved to kind of like adapt to these storms. So all the grass and stuff, when the storm's coming, like sucks into like rocks and stuff like that, and then comes back out when the water's out, and they lap up the water and stuff. And then there's like huge crustacean like monsters and stuff like that. And then there's the singers or the Parshendi creatures, which I'm sure they'd have to do that all in probably makeup or practical or CG.
I would prefer practical.
I would too. Yeah, get the folks at Weta on it. But yeah, that's a huge production. So I think Mistborn is the first. It is a good starter movie.
I hope they do it. I hope it happens.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think it would be very cool, and it would open a lot of people up to his style of writing. And that's one thing that I really like about him is he is very easy to read or listen to if you do an Audible. Don't get me wrong, I love Game of Thrones, the books. I think they're excellent, but man, they can be really slow because George R. R. Martin goes into so and so with his wolf-shaped armor and his gauntlets and his doublet and blah 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 blah.
So like Tolkien,
and like Tolkien, and very classic fantasy where they go in and they describe what the house is, what their sigildry is, what their armor is, what their banners look like, what kind of weapons they're using, and then they go off on all these little side plots and stuff too. Stormlight, it reads like you can almost like picture it as a movie playing in your head. It's very, very easy.
Which to me,
going.
It's similar how Stephen King writes. At least it very much sounds like you're picturing a movie. Yeah,
very conversational. Though, like some of the stuff that he writes is very well written prose. I think that overall it's very easily to digest.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned earlier that he kind of updates people as he's doing this. I don't know if you realize how much Brandon Sanderson writes.
A lot. I mean, look at these.
Shit ton.
Because he hasn't been around for that long, right?
He has not been active for super long. In the grand scheme of things, I should say. But he basically, I'd say, compared to someone like Stephen King or whatever, who's been doing it for a long time.
He also looks nothing how I imagine him looking like.
Oh yeah, he's a super nerd for sure, and he's Mormon, and he is a teacher. He teaches fiction at BYU, which is kind of cool.
2003.
Yeah, 2003. So and by 2003 he had written 12 novels with no publisher. none had been accepted. So he's just like a writing fiend.
Can you imagine? I've always wondered, like the people that passed him up, and now that he's blowing up, they're probably like
yeah.
dude, he came to us, we said no. Same thing with like what's it, the Harry Potter lady? Like she got turned down like 6 different places. Can you imagine those 6 places? Like, dude, we could have been fucking like billionaires.
Oh, like whoever passed up on him, but he's very open and saying like, look, because he talks about like I wrote 12 novels before I got published. Those 12 novels, no one should read. They're bad. And so Elantris came out in 2005.
Okay.
So, not that long ago. But then look at these books coming out. Elantris, 2005. Mistborn 1, 2006. Mistborn 2, 2007. Mistborn 3, 2008. Warbreaker, 2009. Way of Kings, 2010. Mistborn, the first of the second trilogy.
Oh, that was his driest, though.
In 2011.
He went 3 years.
Then he went towards Words of Radiance in 2014. But he did. I'm sure he did some other stuff. Let's see. Yeah, so he did short stories in for Elantris and Mistborn too. And then he's also done some graphic novels. He did an iOS action role playing game called Infinity Blade. He wrote some for. He did
Legion. I knew he did Legion. That was a good one too.
He did Legion. The Many Lives of Stephen Leeds.
That would also make a great show if someone did.
And then he did Wheel of Time, the last 3 books of Robert Jordan's series in 2009, 2010, and 2013. So he's just like shitting out books like nonstop, which is awesome. And like for instance, he just like last week or the week before, he was like, yeah, so I've started on Mistborn. I guess it would be 7 now. He's like, I just started on it. I'm about 10,000 words in. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Brandon. He's like, I should be done with it by August. I'm like, what the fuck?
I was gonna say maybe
May.
I was gonna say maybe he has a lot of caffeine, but he can't because he's Mormon, right?
No, and so he kind of describes his day. He wakes up at like fucking noon, which is awesome. First of all, you're killing it, Brandon. But then he stays up till like 3 a.m. and he writes for 8 hours a day, like a job, like a normal everyday job. So he says he does like a 3 or 4 hour writing session. Then he stops, has dinner with his kids, hangs out with his family a little bit, and then he has another 4 hour writing session. He does that like every fucking day.
Insane.
Then you take someone like George R. R. Martin, who like I give George R. R. Martin a pass because he's old as fuck, and not only that, but he has also helped produce and help orchestrate one of the biggest TV shows of all time, Game of Thrones.
Do you think he had anything to do with the ending?
At least from what I've heard, I think he had like cliff notes for it. Like he had an outline, like, oh yeah,
I'm sure.
I think Danny should go evil, and then Brandon.
I'm sure for the rest of the books, or he has one left.
He has like 3 books left.
Yeah,
which we're never going to see.
I'm pretty sure
Brandon Sanderson will finish those 2, and they'll be awesome.
I'm pretty sure he's like, oh yeah, I didn't. They just ran. HBO just ran with that. That wasn't my idea. Like
he's already said he's going to change the ending.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like why would you write an ending that everyone hates?
Yeah.
But yeah, so for George R. R. Martin, it's been 10 years since the last book came out. You know what the last thing that happened in the books was?
In what?
In Game of Thrones?
No.
Jon Snow got killed.
Really?
Yeah, by the Night's Watch.
So I'm wondering if he's going to bring him back. I mean, he has to. Everyone loved him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he comes back in the show. He comes back to life.
But that's what I'm wondering if he's going to do it in the books.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure, like, that's too big of a, like, if there is a main character of Game of Thrones, it's Jon Snow.
Right.
And Daenerys Targaryen. But yeah, but that shows you, like, that happened in, like, season 2 or 3 of Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
Where Jon Snow died?
Yeah.
No, wasn't it like 4 or 5?
It might have been 5.
Season 5, yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
It definitely wasn't 2.
But anyway, that's the last thing that happened. So there's definitely more books to come out. And who knows if we'll ever see him. It's been 10 years. There's another author who I think I brought up on the show before called Patrick Rothfuss, who he wrote the Name of the Wind. It is the first book in the series. It's called the King Killer Chronicles. And it's an awesome book. Like, the first book, and then Wise Man's Fear is the second book. Like one of the best-selling books, highest-rated fantasy books in like decades. But the problem is he when he first came out, it was like, oh my God, who's this guy? Like, he's never written anything. His first book is just a fucking slam dunk. It's amazing. Can't wait. And he's like, yeah. And I've already written the other two, in this trilogy or whatever. The second book gets delayed a couple years. Not a big deal. First time, big time writer. You get all this fame. It's fine. We've been waiting for the third book for 10 years also. And he'll do all these interviews, and he's a fucking asshole. I'm calling you out, Patrick Rothfuss.
It's because he doesn't have the book.
Yeah. Well, also in this 10 years, his editor recently came out.
Quit?
No, she came out saying, like, I've not seen a single word of book 3. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm editing it. I'm going through and, I'm changing things, reworking it. Blah, 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 blah. And then he does all these like little like live streams on his YouTube channels or on Reddit or whatever. And every single time someone asks, like, dude, what the fuck? Where's book 3? And he's like, look, I'm tired of people asking me this. If you think if I had a publication date for book 3, I would just answer it in the fucking chat here for you. No, I would fucking write a blog about it. The publisher would release it, and you'd fucking hear about it. Okay, just use your fucking head. And I'm like, he's talking to his fans this way. Like
the people who make him money.
All they're asking is like, dude, you said you wrote these books. Please just let us read the third one. We've read the first 2 of a trilogy. Please let us read a third. It's been a decade. And he's just like, yeah, use your fucking head.
He's never going to fucking do it.
Dude, he is a fucking piece of shit. But he is a beautiful writer. The books are so good. But yeah, man, it's and that's what I like so much about Brandon Sanderson.
He doesn't keep you waiting.
Not only that, but he's very open. Like, for instance, I think Rhythm of War, which is the latest Stormlight Archive book, it got delayed a year. And he's like, look, I kind of bit off more than I could chew with these other books. Once I'm done with them, I will 100% finish this one. So it is delayed a year, but it should be out in, April of 2020.
And it was huge.
And it was great. And it was, fantastic. And he's very open and honest with everything. And he, like, you can tell he works at it. Like, I'm sure fucking Patrick Rothfuss hasn't sat down at a computer in like fucking 5 years. You know what I mean? He's
still riding off the money of those first 2 books, man.
And you can kind of tell he like that. There's one particular video that I'm thinking of. He's like, it's like I've been really busy, and like I came out with this. I had to help
busy
consult.
Spending that money.
He's like, I had to help consult on this sword which these guys are making for the book. Where I just think I want to make sure they get it right so that you guys can have that, and that'll be a cool thing that you can have from the book. And then I helped, design the game that I wrote about in the book. They play this like chess like board game. It's like I helped design that, and I think, and it's blown up and people are having tournaments of it, and that's so cool, So I've been busy. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you're a writer, and like there's, that's a 2-minute Zoom meeting where you're like, oh yeah, I think the handle should be red instead of green or whatever. And but he's like, yeah, I've just been really busy, and he does all these blogs where he talks about how he approaches writing. I'm like, you don't approach writing. You're a piece of garbage.
I feel like he made one of those deals where like you can be a famous writer, you're going to be loved, but you can't finish a goddamn story.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think what's happened is he set out like this. He had these great plans on how to do it, and now the hype has been built up so much that now he's like overthinking it, and he's just re-editing, and he's just like, I can't have this book fail because of how much it's been built up, how much I've built it up, how much everyone's built it up. I don't think we'll ever see that book.
Nah.
Dude, he's a fucking piece of shit.
He might get more games and swords though.
Dude, he's only got 2 books. Like, there's only so much content in there. And they're not Brandon Sanderson length books either.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're very short books. And also there's so much in the story that he has set up. There's so much that he has to pay off in book 3 that it's like It's so crazy.
Just have,
He's not going to do it.
Just have Sanderson do it.
Yeah, just Patrick Rothfuss, just send your notes to Brandon Sanderson.
And then he'll burn it. And
he'll burn it. He'll rewrite it in like 3 weeks, and then it'll be better.
There you go.
God damn. I get so heated talking about Patrick Rothfuss because it wouldn't be a big, like, that's why George R. R. Martin, he's a sweet old man who's got like a pervy side to him and loves violence. I get it. Like, that's his deal. He's super old. He also helped create Game of Thrones, the TV show. You know, he was a supervisor and stuff on there. So, like, I get it. He's old. He's done other huge projects, you know, and, you know, the hype of Game of Thrones has died off considerably since that last season. So it's fine. I give him a pass. Patrick Rothfuss, he's not that old. He's like, you know, I think he's like 40, 42, something like that. So, you know, he's got his whole career ahead of him, but he just isn't doing shit. And then his editor, like, just went off on him. Like, she's like, yeah, I haven't seen his any word of book 3. And I haven't seen, you know, and, you know, he's got to think about like how, you know, this affects the book company who has already paid him, you know?
Oh, that guy's definitely not going to do it.
Oh yeah. This fucking guy. Yeah. Here's Patrick Rothfuss, editor here. She confirms that after 9 years, she has yet to read a single word of The Doors of Stone, which is the 3rd book.
Nah, that guy definitely took the money he's going to run.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the Name of the Wind came out in 2007. So, okay. So to put that in perspective, we said Brandon Sanderson came out in 2005.
Yep.
And he's written, we'll do a quick count, 4 Stormlights plus 6 Mistborn. So that's 10. Elantris and Warbreaker is 11 and 12.
Legion,
there was like, what, 4 of those?
I think so.
You know, so it's called 15, 16. Skyward, there's 2 of them so far. So like 20, let's call it 20 books.
Okay.
You know, rounded estimate. We didn't actually look it up, but about, just off the top of our head, about 20 books in the same amount of time that he has written like 2 books, a novella, and I think a short story.
There you go.
Yeah. You know, it's like, God, what the fuck, man? So George R. R. Martin's Winds of Winter exceeds the waiting time by 5 months. So, you know, it's about the same thing. Like, authors don't owe their readerships books, but what about the publishers who paid them? This is a quote from the editor who paid them. Book publishing is not as lucrative as many other professions, and publishers rely on the strongest sellers to keep their companies, especially small companies like DAW, which I guess is the publishing company of that, afloat. When authors don't produce, it basically fucks their publishers. When I delayed the publication of book 2, Pat was very open with his fans. They knew what was happening. I've never seen a word of book 3. She just fucking lights them up. And she goes on to say, if I get a draft of book 3 by surprise sometime, I'll be extraordinarily happy. Joyous, actually. I will read it immediately with gusto. I love Pat's writing. I will instantly feel forgiving and lucky to be his editor and publisher.
That's someone who's given up.
Dude, yeah, like I would too. Like, it's been 10 years. Like, you think, first of all, you got to feel for not only the editor, but the publishing company, right?
Yeah.
They take a gamble on this hot shot or on this new author, right? Who has this crazy fantasy book, unlike anything anyone's ever seen before. And then it instantly goes New York Times bestseller, one of the best-selling fantasy books of all time. And you're like, oh my God, I've struck gold. I found the next Robert Jordan, the next Brandon Sanderson, the next Stephen King. You're like, I've fucking made it. I'm going to be able to retire. And then the second book comes out. And it's like, yes, it's still great. It's a little late, but that's okay. We're fucking doing it. We're turning this publishing house into a legit super force in the fantasy world. And then 10 years go by.
Yep.
And you're like, what the fuck?
I'm sure bro. They can pressure him. Like, I mean, they gave him the money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. You'd have to see the contract, but it's like I feel for those guys.
Oh, for sure.
Not only that, but like think about like everything that goes into making a book. The printers, right? You know, when you print 1 million copies of a book, they're not getting the work from him. The fans have been chomping at the bit, and eventually the hype's just going to die down, and he's going to release it, and no one's going to give a fuck anymore. And that frustrates me, which is why I suggest everyone go out right now and read Brandon Sanderson books.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you were going to promote his books, so why do you want to give him more money?
No, I mean, Name of the Wind is amazing. You should read that too, but go into it knowing you're probably never going to see the ending of the story. But it is great, and the characters are amazing. But Brandon Sanderson, he's just churning out books left and right, and I appreciate that. I think everyone should check it out. I think I think Mistborn is a good place for most people to start.
I would say, yeah, start with that, and then you get a better, I think it would be an easier
prepares
transition
you
for Stormlight.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely prepares you to read some of his chunkier thick boy books. Very cool. Alrighty then. Well, I think that just about does it for us today. Let us know down in the comments or shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebookins. What's your favorite fantasy series, novel, author of all time? Have you read any of Brandon Sanderson's stuff? We'd love to hear from you. We think he's amazing, but let us know. Maybe you guys can tell us of some. I'm always looking for new fantasy stuff, so let us know of some of your favorite authors out there. You guys can check us out. All of our info is at nerdswithfriendspodcast.com. That's where you can buy a bag of our tea if you like. You can see pictures of us if you want, I guess. You can read our origin story. All sorts of good stuff on there. And if you want to support our show, you can go to patreon.com/nerdswithfriends and get lots of cool rewards and tiers on there. And thank you to all of our patrons who support us week after week. We do appreciate you and all that you do for the show. Christian?
Yes.
Let me know when you're done with Mistborn.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we have to talk about it. I just finished rereading it for the first time, or rereading for a third time.
Nice.
So check it out. But thank you for taking a chance on that book.
That was good. Love it.
And to all the nerds out there, remember, you're not alone. You're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. Thank you and good night.